What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Thank you for joining me today. If you're watching this as a pre recording, I thank you guys for joining in. Today, I want to talk about the SKX. This live is going to be dedicated to it. It's a watch that I've loved and enjoyed for a very long time now. And I just thought that I would stream a live dedicated to the SKX and give you guys some options that you can go with if you do love this watch. It has been discontinued and it was replaced with the 5KX, but I think that there has been a lot of buzz with it still. A lot of people that are new to collecting will look this up on YouTube. They'll see a lot of videos on it. And, at this point in time, of course, they can go to that 5KX as a replacement. But, there's something to say towards the original watch. And it's actually the watch I have on wrist today. So I'll put that up on to the camera so you guys can see. So this is my SKX 009. I modded the bezel. Somebody pointed that out to me today on a video. Actually, they said, "What's going on with your SKX? What's up with the bezel?" And I didn't mention that I modded the bezel too much, but that was something that I wanted to do. And we all know that this SKX model is very versatile as far as modding parts and everything else. So there's a lot of things that you can do with it. But personally, on my watch, I decided that I only wanted to change out the bezel. I really didn't want to do anything on the inside. At one point in time, I did change the case back, which I have the original case back on here now, but I changed it to the see-through. And as we know with the Seiko movements, it's really not something to really gawk about, right? That movement is just plain. It's a plain looking movement altogether. So I decided to put it back to that regular case back that it comes with because I was worried about losing some water resistance and everything else. But anyway, guys, I wanted to share with you my screen here because what I want to talk to you today about is alternatives to it. What route would I take now, if I didn't acquire the SKX model? Which ones would I go for at this point? What's up, Ben and Watch? How are you, man? Happy Friday, brother. Um, what route would I go on the SKX at this point if I was just, starting off as a watch enthusiast? Maybe it's the first mechanical watch that I'm looking at. And now I know it's discontinued. If I Google searched it or if I looked for a brand new one, the '09 is going upwards to like $600 or $700, and the 007 is going for close to $1,000 now. So it's really hard to get your hands on something brand new. And I think that it's my responsibility as an enthusiast to share that with you guys as far as what are some options to go for. And I'm going to share my screen with you guys so you guys can see exactly what I'm talking about here. So this would be my first stop, Tanderio. It's a company that is pretty much talking about more and more. It's becoming a lot more popular now as far as acquiring a mechanical watch at a very affordable rate. You can see here it's only $70. And this version that they have is going to look very much like the SKX original. So the 007, and then they have an option for a 009, which is here, one for one at the end of the day. And then you have the choice of going with their logo or without their logo on there. So this is with their logo and without their logo. Now, how do I think this watch is going to hold up compared to the original SKX? I think that for what it is and for what most people are going to be using it for, I think it's definitely going to hold up. I mean, they claim to have 200 meters water resistance. You see 20 bar there. How well that watch is going to hold up, I don't know. I know of a few YouTubers who said that they did do testing for water resistance for it, and some of them did hold up, and some models, not this one exactly, but some models didn't. So at the end of the day, I think that overall it's a solid watch. We're talking $70 to get into that language design. You can go with or without the logo there, and then you're going to have the features of, let's see if it says it here. You're going to have the specs that you pretty much want out of it, right? So on the crystal, it's going to be a sapphire. So sapphire crystal right there. Then again, you're getting an NH35. So versus the original '07, as we all know, you can't hand wind the movement. You have to give it that shake shake to wake it up. But on this one, it's going to have that automatic movement. It's going to have the hand wind. I believe it also has hacking on the NH35A. So it's a phenomenal option for you guys to look at if you are deciding to go that route. And then, of course, you're going to have it on the Jubilee bracelet, like how I have mine. I think aesthetically and comfort wise, that's going to be the most comfortable thing that you could throw on there as far as bracelet goes. So that one's going to look like the 09, and this is going to look like the 07 with the logo. And I believe, yeah, this one's without the logo. Now, to add to that, I want to show you guys a text that I brought up with them. So I actually contacted Tandario and I had a question for them, because another nice thing to add to acquiring that watch would be, now you're buying a homage, right? And you're getting the features that are technically on paper better. I mean, there's a talk about Hardlex versus Sapphire, and people prefer the Sapphire because they trust it more and they know that they've never gotten scratches. In my experience with my own 09, I've never had a problem with the crystal. I mean, listen, the bezel that I put on it, it does come up a little bit. You guys could see from the edging here. So if I was to hit a doorknob or hit a door frame or something like that, it's going to hit that bezel first. So it's not going to hit the crystal. But even if I did hit the crystal, I don't think that I've ever had an issue with this. So as far as getting scratches on the original one versus a Sapphire, tomato, I don't think it's going to be a tremendous difference. But I want to show you guys a text here. So I reached out to Tandario, and I know that they give you the option of getting a watch without their logo, right? So I actually messaged them and I asked them, do you do custom logos for the dials for customers? And then as you can see, their reply was, hello, dear. We can help customize the logo, and it is extra customization fee. Now he said dear, but I don't think they meant dear. Remember that you're talking to most people on that kind of platform. It's a language barrier and it's being translated to their language and back. So that's why they called me probably dear. But $25 USD, as you can see there, for one color, is the extra charge that they're going to charge you guys to put whatever logo you want on there. At that point, you would send them, you know, if you want to put your name on there as a logo, you would just give them the font and you would send it to them. And then you would request, I definitely recommend you guys to request renderings from them. So they'll take whatever you send them, and if it's not your name and it's an image that you want on there for the logo, then you want to make sure that logo is a very simplistic one. You don't want to give them something with too many crazy details, because it's not going to translate when they print that to the dial. But if you're just giving them their name, you just forward them exactly what you want. You know, in my case, I would say Santana. I'd send it over to them, and then they would give you a rendering of it before you approve, and then you would ask them to ship that after the fact. So that is my number one, I would say, only because of the cost factor, the customization ability that you could do on that. So that definitely would be my first recommendation. Ben, what are you saying over here, Ben? I had a day off, went shopping, my wife, lunch. All right, you telling us how your day was? Let's put it on screen, buddy. Let's put your day on blast. Football and rugby. Rugby is a serious sport. Rugby, I think, is rougher than football. I would dare to say, because you have less protective guarding on there. Any plans? Amazing pizza today? Yeah, he already knows. Ben, I appreciate you joining, man. I really do. So that was the Tandario, guys. Let's share the screen again. That's my first recommendation if you're looking for that language to design for the SKX. Again, you can get some. They have a bunch of different colors on here too, right? So they have like a bluesy style that you can go with, you know, a couple of colorways. And this is what I was talking about before, right? There's 500 plus that have been sold. There's 150 reviews, and it's a 4.8. So at the end of the day, you know, a lot of people are very iffy, especially if they're starting off in their collection and they're wondering, you know, is it trustworthy? Is it good quality and everything else? Well, I mean, for me, when I shop on Amazon or I shop on any of these online stores, you're looking at the reviews, you're looking at how many people bought it, and it seems to be a safe place to recommend people, and it's the reason why I did it. On the other side of that, and additional to that, if you're customizing this watch, you're first of all you're choosing a watch that is a language design of the SKX, and then it's not expensive, right? So if you want to start dabbling and opening up that watch and messing around with the hands, with the dial, it's all Seiko parts. It's a Seiko movement, so you can customize the dial. You could go back into the watch and recustomize it. I mean, it's something that I've talked about before, but this is a perfect example of where you could start your journey. A lot of people started their journey with the SKX back in the day when it was affordable. I think it was around $150, $200. Don't quote me, but I think that was the starting price of it. But at this point in time, we're talking about almost close to $1,000, like I said, for the 07 and 800. It's just crazy. Like, the prices are way too crazy for you guys to step into an actual SKX model, and it's not going to be worth the value anymore. So, second recommendation: if you say to yourself, "Hey, Skylar, I really don't like to buy homages, or I'm not really a fan of AliExpress. I can't really trust them." I have another watch for you. Now, you're going to have to stretch your dollar out a little bit more for this one, but at the end of the day, I have a great recommendation, and that's the Islander. Mark from Long Island Watch has produced a phenomenal replacement for that watch. I think he basically took what that watch should have been at the end of the day and turned it, completely on its head. He made it greatly available to everybody. And his cost on it is $300, right? And I think that's including shipping in the US. And if you're overseas, it's only $15 shipping, which is a great deal, because I myself have shipped stuff overseas and it costs a lot more for a guy like me to ship something over. So he's absorbing some cost, and or he's obviously getting a deal there because he's a actual brand at this point. So the Islander, I believe this is the ISL 02, right? $299. You're getting everything that you would want in the SKX 007 as far as an upgrade goes, as far as where Seiko should have taken this watch at the end of the day. So you're getting a sapphire crystal on there. Here are all the specs right here. You're getting a sapphire crystal. You're getting solid end links on your bracelet. Again, I believe he has this on, I think he has this on Oyster style bracelet, but still better than getting that rubber strap that you would originally from Seiko if you could get that watch at today's. A water resistance of 200 meters. Now, I'm very confident, I haven't run any tests myself, and I haven't done any extensive research, but I'm confident that Mark's not going to release a watch that says 200 meters and it actually isn't, right? So if you're not trusting that Tanderio deal, maybe you feel like it's too good to be true and you don't care about doing the customization to the dial, then this is the watch I would definitely recommend for you to go. Super Luminova. He's giving it a 1-year warranty, 120 clicks. I mean, listen, it's the SKX, but it's supercharged. I'm pretty sure it has hacking, hand winding. You're getting the date on there. I mean, it's pretty much where Seiko should have taken their Seiko 5 collection. Instead of losing the water resistance on theirs, keeping with the Harlex crystal, which I'm not too mad about. Again, the Harlex crystal is not end all be all for me. I think that's completely fine. But this is a fantastic deal that he's offering. I mean, he could have really charged and capitalized on the fact that Seiko didn't give us a direct replacement, and or before the 5KX came out, there was kind of like a hole in the market where, just nothing was available, and that SKX got discontinued. So I think that's where his journey began, and this is where he picked up. Now, this one has an sapphire crystal, like I said, and then it has an AR coating on it. And I think it may be a blue AR coating. And as you can see around the crystal, there's some bluing there. So really a great rendition of the 007. He's got the hands on there. He's got his, company logo. But another good feature on this one, I believe it has drilled lugs. And that, for me, drilled lugs. So another big feature when you talk about wanting to change out the bracelet, drilled lugs is a heaven's sake. And let's see if we can get a close up on the photo of Will this show? Yeah, there you go, drilled lugs. So right there, you just take your pin, you push it in there instead of trying to fish it out with the fork. and you don't have to worry about scratching anywhere else. So I mean, just a fantastic watch. He's got his branding on the crown there. That's really nice and neat. I mean, I really think that this watch is a fantastic option for you to get something that's closer to a branding and has that, company behind it. I'm pretty sure that Mark's customer service is phenomenal. If you had any issues with the watch, you have somebody that you're going to be able to contact, and you're going to be able to take care of it. But it's a fantastic watch. It's a fantastic option for you guys. So that's something that I also wanted to recommend if you didn't want to go the route of customization. So Seiko now, we're talking about another option here, right? If you want to go straight to the source, and you don't want to go the two recommendations I gave prior, and you said, you know what, I really want something from Seiko exactly, and I want something to replicate that. So this one is 325 from Seiko, SRPD 55. It has a language design of the 007. But again, as we all know, when you look at the water resistance here, 10 bar, hardlex crystal, debatable. The bracelet's probably going to be okay. It's not going to be anything to write home about. And I don't think we're getting, let's see if we're getting, oh, it looks like they do have drilled lugs on here, huh? Yeah. So they did upgrade it a little bit. So that is also something to look at. We're also getting a display case back. Again, I put a display case back on my 009, but as you can see from the movement, I mean, you have a little bit branding on the rotor there. So that was a little bit nice of a touch. But other than that, it's pretty much bare. You don't have any colors for the different wheels. You don't have anything to write home about the movement in the back. So, for me, I would rather, and I don't know if some of that water resistance is coming from that being a display caseback, right? Because if it's not a solid caseback, that gives water a chance to move in through the crystal. And this is probably mineral crystal at that point. I don't know if that's going to be hardlex on the back there, but I would have liked to have seen that been a solid caseback. I think they did a really beautiful design on the original. It would have been nice to rather see a new refurbished or new look to the case design to introduce this, model into it as being the replacement. But it is what it is. If you're the type of person that doesn't want to go with any other kind of brands, whether it be a micro or an independent brand. We're not saying micro brands anymore. We're going to say independent brands. Independent brands like Mark himself or Tandario, then, you're going to be more interested in, getting something straight from Seiko itself. So this is another example of it that you can go for. And it is nice that they're at least giving you some kind of bracelet here. And the price isn't too crazy. I mean, for what it is, maybe closer to 250, 300 clean, it's close to that. So debatable, with the price hikes of everything, it's kind of expected to pay a little bit more than what you would have from the original one. But, I think that's a fair, option as well. So let's remove this. I love the drill. Yeah. All right. So let's look at some of the comments here. Let's show you guys some love. Mega, what's going on, buddy? Mega's in the building, always showing love and support. What's up? Let's see. Buy the Islander. So Mega's saying buy the Islander. And I agree with him. I say that the Islander is reputable. I mean, it's a watch enthusiast behind it, like any other independent brand. You're getting a guy who's just passionate about selling watches. He goes to watch conventions. You can talk to him. I talked to him when I went to the city last Watch and Wine. Great guy. Had a bunch of his watches on display. So he's a guy that is going to take apart the SKX 007, 009, which is something he did. He saw a hole in the market, and he really cares about his watches. So he's going to do those upgrades. He's going to, not going to say take advantage, but I'm going to say he's going to give the people what they want, right? He's very close to enthusiasts. He's talking to them probably on a daily basis through his, social media and whatever the case may be. So he's going to deliver exactly what you're looking for. So Mega, I definitely agree with you. Buy the Islander on that. The option there was for Tandario because of the customization and the affordability, right? Like if you get somebody who's new to the watch game, they may not even understand why somebody would go a mechanical route at that point. So, if you offer that to somebody who's new and you tell them that a mechanical watch starts at $300 or $400, they're going to look at you sideways and they're going to say, that's absurd. That's basically a VHS that you're paying more money for, and now we have Netflix stream, right? Versus a quartz watch. So that's the reason why I had the Tandario up there. But I have to say, if I am talking to somebody who's new to the game and they have the money to afford the Islander over the Tandario, 100%. So I'm with you, Mega. Mega again says drilled lugs. Yeah, absolutely. Mark put that on there. When you talk about strap change, strap monsters, that's something important that you want here. That's not something that you're getting from the original SKX, as you guys know. And you have the potential to scratch the watch. It's something that we never want to do at the end of the day. In fact, I don't know if it's going to come up on camera, but putting this bezel on here, it's right. You guys see it there. So I actually I got a little cocky in the beginning of modding, and I thought that I was going to defy the laws of metal on metal, and I decided to pop this bezel off without any tape protection on it, and I scratched it. It's my war story for this watch. I don't mind scratching my watches. I would have probably preferred not to, but if I do end up scratching a watch, it's my scratch. So I don't mind, wearing it and having that story to tell. And now when I look at the bottom left lug of this watch, I'm like, I learned a valuable lesson there. And listen, if you scratch your watch, remember, guys, debatable. This was, I think, $300 at the time. Is it worth it, to polish up this watch, remove those scratches? Probably not at this point, unless I really valued having a perfect watch. But at the end of the day, maybe it does, and I put the money to do it. But the point is that whatever you do to your watch, whether it be a scratch, whether you even dent it, you knock it really hard, they can do some lasering and they can still fix that watch. So wear your watch. Don't worry about scratching it. Have fun with it. I wasn't afraid to try and mod this SKX. I dove deep into it. But again, I didn't want to open the watch and mess with anything on the internal, knowing that it was discontinued and knowing that there's plenty of other Seiko parts and I could really mess around with. So I wanted to keep this one as original as possible. But man, the bezel on the 09, not bad. Aluminum, it gives you that vintage kind of feel. But man, look at that. Look at that ceramic, baby. Yeah. So now you have that dark blue. So if you catch this watch on the dial at a certain light point, it's a dark blue. And then the bezel, hold on now, the bezel is a dark blue to match that dial. And then I have the normal 15-second diver thing to match the text. So I think that this was a absolute home run. And it's ceramic. I like that modern look to it. I like that shine, that chic. That's just my thing. So I don't know how I got to that point after going after drilled lugs as a comment, but I like to go on tangents, and you guys pretty much know me by now, so I like to do that. Dave D, what's going on, baby? I don't think the SKX is worth. No, the SKX. All right, so you don't think the SKX is worth the buy? 100% not worth the buy at this point, brother. I agree with you. The price hike on that is really insane. I really think that it's not nice. Like they took advantage of the fact that they know that this was a cult classic. They knew that it had a lot of nostalgia for a lot of people. Even there's a lot of people that put it in their collection and went back to the SKX because they sold it or something like that, and they knew it was a phenomenal watch. So it just, aside from it being rated to dive and having such that high, water resistance to it, it was in a lot of people's collections. You talk about, there was some people with high-end luxury watches that had this watch in their collection. But nowadays, yeah, it's the 07's close to a G. Like, what are we doing? No way. Especially with all those options out there that you have. I definitely agree with you, Dave D. It's not worth it right now. I bought a few pieces from Mark, great guy and company. Absolutely. Absolutely. Alluding back to my point, I really think that if you can stretch the dollar and go for Mark's version of it, it's going to be a phenomenal watch, and you're not going to be unhappy with it. And listen, he's giving you a 1-year warranty. He's not hitting you over the head for the delivery charge and everything else. So the wife doesn't like scratches. She says no scratches. That's just how it is. So guys, chat, anybody out there have another recommendation for the SKX? I think that I covered a pretty good amount of bases when it came to those options. But if you guys can think of anybody else who is doing a version of the SKX and doing it very well, whether it be they improved on the specs, whether it be maybe they got very close to the specs and they're just doing their version of like a homage to it. If you guys know of any other watches out there, put it in the chat. Let me know. Let me know if you also own the watch, right? Like if you guys have an SKX and or have had it before. I think Ben had told us in the past and the other ones that he had sold his, which he regrets at this point, I think. But it is what it is, man. Like if you were ready to move on from that watch at that point in time, then, you know, you can't look back, man. Like whatever you did at that point, you thought it was the right decision. It's hard because I'm sure that it's a common thing to move on from a watch after you sold it, especially if you had an attachment to it. So that's a decision I think that you should really try to really think about if you're ready to move on from the watch before doing it, because even if you're able to purchase that watch again, you're not getting the one that you had. And if it had those memories attached to it, then it kind of sucks, man, because that watch is gone. And then even if you can't put it back in your collection after the fact, it's a done deal, you know? Let's see what we got here. Mega, never owned one, but there are so many other choices out there which are good and better. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Even close to the price range, you know, you don't have to necessarily go for a 1-for-1 for it. You know, at the end of the day, the SKX was a diver. You know, the diver languages are very, very similar out there for many different watches. And even if you look to customize, there's so many affordable parts from Seiko that you can be very close to, you know, like depending on how close you want to resemble that SKX and how close you want it to be like a homage to it. You know, there's a lot of different watch options out there, like Mega said. And there's a lot of different companies that offer, you know, a dive watch that is going to be close to it and that's phenomenally built. So absolutely. Ben, yep, I had it. I never wore it, so I sold it slightly more. But all right, so slightly more, but nothing like these prices. So Ben, question for you. Are you regretting selling that watch because it went up in value and you and you wish you would have sold it later for the difference? Or are you regretting it because you're like, I didn't really knew what I had at the time when I had it, and now that it's discontinued, it's gone and I can't get it back? You know, which one is it? Which one do you feel is the regret in selling that watch? Or do you feel like, you know, maybe your preference changed and now you are wearing divers more? You know, let us know what you mean. So let's switch back to the screen here. And another option that I was dancing around in my mind with is, as far as alluding to the comment before, there's so many better watches out there. I mean, Seiko just came out with their GMT movement that we all know about. And you can go with that and get that language design close to. And I think this one's a phenomenal one. I like the black and blue. I like that Batman kind of look. It's on a Jubilee bracelet. It's a GMT. A GMT at you know, a mechanical rate, 475 Jubilee bracelet. I mean, you know, if it was me and I was $300 for the one that I recommended before, or $325 versus the 475, I'm going this route, man. I'm going with the GMT, collar GMT, you know, ready to go, very affordable. I think that this is also a possibility as far as an option if a GMT speaks to you. You know, it may be a little bit of a stretch if you're somebody that's looking to get a mechanical watch for the first time and you're chasing after the SKX. But I mean, a mechanical movement, once Seiko released this movement, all bets were off as far as getting a GMT and a mechanical as far as affordability, right? Like now, a lot of people have access to this movement. They got a nice, a range of colorways that you can choose from. So this one I think would be probably closest to that 007 language. And they added the red in there, red GMT text. It's a nice watch, man. Has the Cyclops on there. Not a big Cyclops guy, but at the end of the day, it's another option for you if you're looking for going that route, in my opinion. So, that's also worth mentioning as well, I think. Citizen ProMaster. Yeah, man. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Wifey says hashtag no regrets. Regret selling it because here we go. Here we go. This is the regret selling because I didn't know what it, okay. So you acquired the watch. Maybe you heard a little bit about it, but you didn't get the full scope and array of it. Maybe you didn't know there was such like a cult following or understand it. But this is the reason why I'm talking about it today. Like I kind of felt a little iffy about talking about a watch that's discontinued and it's old news, but I don't think it is, man. I think that, as we go along in the journey and as we, look back at the things that were a hype thing, I think the SKX is something to still look back at. And especially with the Seiko 5 coming out, that really drew up old feelings about it. And, it was talked about a lot by a lot of people. And I think that it's a great conversation to have because, at the end of the day, I love my SKX. I know what it is and everything else. So let me talk about so what are my plans for this watch, right? What do I mean by that? It is discontinued, right? So when the watch needs a service. Now, I don't know when the watch is going to need a service. Nobody does. It all depends, right, on how much you're wearing it. I rotate my watches often. But at the end of the day, when the time comes to servicing this watch, it clearly isn't going to be worth it unless it's worth it for you personally to keep the original parts on it. My plans for this is when it's time to have a service, I'm going to do one of two things. I could still try and source the movement and just do a movement swap if I'm able to get my hands on it. The second option is, I don't know if you guys ever seen Loomshot, but he actually took this watch and gave it the upgrades to the hacking and hand winding that the watch was missing. And I think that I might go that route, like I'm happy with it having the original movement and having the original parts. But at the end of the day, if the watch stops working and the service call is going to be way too much on the SKX, then I might look into just swapping or upgrading the movement at that point. And we all know that Seiko's mass producing the movement, so it shouldn't be too difficult to do. So that's going to be the route that I go. And I don't know exactly what that entails. I only watched this video, I think, once or twice. But I'm going to do a deep dive into seeing, what it will take for me to swap that movement out and revitalize it. And it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to get those upgrades on the watch itself altogether. So, Mega, I briefly touched upon this. Citizen ProMaster Diver. Absolutely. Absolutely a perfect transition or a perfect option to go aside from the SKX model. I would even say, there's a little disdain for Seiko once they came out with the 5KX and they lost some of the capability. So I would say that Orient Kamasu, if you like that diver look to it, I haven't seen too many colorways for the bezel and everything else, but I'm pretty sure that they have the colorways as far as having something to replace that SKX look. So I would definitely take that recommendation too, Mega. Citizen ProMaster is definitely a good watch. Even forget about trying to chase after an SKX. On its own, it definitely stands on its own legs. And if you're just inspired by getting a diver, you could definitely go Citizen ProMaster, 100%. That's a good recommendation. And the second one that I would add to that is an Orient Kamasu. They have a bunch of different, couple of different diver lines, and Orient is a sister company of Seiko at this point. And their movements are in-house. And I've only heard phenomenal things about them. If you talk about their Bambino line, which is more of a dress watch, you only hear about, good news from that. You only hear good reviews, having that vintage inspired look. So going after their divers wouldn't be a bad decision either. And it's still going to be affordable. I'm pretty sure that 200, 300, definitely sub 500, right? It's probably around 350 max, depending on which one you go with, but affordable. A sister company. They work independently from Seiko, in-house movement. I mean, a phenomenal choice as far as diver goes. So that's another one to throw at you guys. Ben, my friend showed me the watch and I liked it, but he said he said it's a watch, people's watch. Those who know. I just didn't get it. So he tried to give you the heads up on there. He tried to save you from your mistake, and you were just like, nah, don't wear it. You got rid of it, then you're like, oh man, where's that SKX? It happens, man. It is what it is. What do we got here? Dave D. I have a deep blue SKX look-alike, and it's much better than the original. Yeah, there you go. There's so many options out there. Dave, where did you get the watch? A deep blue SKX look-alike. Where'd you get your watch from? Where'd you source it from? What do we got here? Dave D's talking about the servicing. So I talked about what I'm going to do for servicing my watch, and he said I will only service a watch if it's a problem with it, not before. Yeah, so 100%. And I had this SKX on a watch winder. I stopped putting it on the watch winder because at the end of the day, you're still going to have to do adjustments. It saves you from having to do the Seiko shake and everything else. But to be honest with you, I don't know if having a watch winder is going to accelerate your need for a service, being that the watch is always in use at that point while it's on the winder. So I ended up taking mine off. I mean, you put it on for 4 to 5 minutes, you do your daily stuff, and it's got enough power for you to set the time. If you have a bunch of mechanical watches, then you're used to setting it. So the watch winder was kind of trivial for me. And then I couldn't really, I researched a lot whether or not a watch winder is healthy for a watch. And you get two sides of the fence. You get some people that say, well, there's no impact in winding the watch and it's doing it at a minimal rate. So therefore, it's not going to have any detriment to the movement. But is it really necessary? It's not really like it's not really saving me for much. So for me, I definitely didn't feel the need to do that. And to your point, Dave, absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't service a watch pretty much unless it's running really poorly. Like if it's running off like by a little bit plus or minus seconds off of the original lot feel to it, that's not enough reason for me to service a watch. It would have to be tremendously keeping time the wrong way for me to say, okay, it's time to do it. I definitely relate to what you're saying, right? Like we're not going to take our car to the shop, unless there's a check engine light or something's actually wrong with it, so definitely agree with you there. And I would definitely do that as well. Orient is no slouch. Yeah. I guess we met at the same time. I'm a little lag on the comments, but Orient is no slouch. Sister company, like I said, definitely a way to go. If you were looking for something of good quality and looking for an affordable diver, and it's a brand name. It has its history, so I definitely think that would be an option. Watch settings exactly. Marlon ran with. What was that? Mark from Islander took the SKX and ran with it. Yeah, man, he did. He did. I mean, he talks about it very transparent, and he even says, like in his videos, how many units he sold and how much he actually moves the watch. So I'm pretty sure that he's happy as can be taking on that role of filling in that hole, because there's just a lot of people that would have loved to get those upgrades from Seiko itself, and he did the right thing. I mean, he plugged that hole and he does phenomenal with it. I'm sure he still gets orders from it today, and good for him, man. That's an absolute home run from him. Deep Blue website. So let's check that out. Deep Blue website. Let's check out the watch that he's talking about. I guess I'll Google Deep Blue watches. Bingo. Let's see. Deep Blue watches. When in doubt, just add watches to the end, and you shall find. Give me a second, guys. I'm just scrolling through to see what watch he is talking about. They're popping up some divers here. This is not a deep. I mean, it could be any one of these watches, really. Let's screen share this so you guys can see what I'm doing instead of looking like a weirdo. And so I don't know if this is the company. I don't know. Let's see. Yeah, Deep Blue watches. I don't know what website I was on before. I'm gonna get that viral. Let's see. What do we got over here? This says quartz, which is fine. You can always go a quartz route. I didn't mention that, but I'm not sure if that is the watch that you're talking about. But at the end of the day, okay, so you're okay. There you go. So 250. Obviously the 07 and the 09 look to it. Quartz, nothing wrong with that. In fact, this watch might be even less of a headache because you don't have to worry about waking the watch up. You're only going to have a date to worry about in transition. Let's look at the specs here. 200 meters, screw down crown, of course. Miyota movement. Yeah, man. This Miyota quartz movement. Yeah, why not? Why not? 3-year battery life. Luminous. 120. Yeah, absolutely. This is a proper suggestion. I think this is the watch that you meant. 250, not bad on price, and you're getting that language design. And I think the dial is the dial is definitely different. It's more of like a sunburst there, but this is an awesome watch. Preferably, I would rather get a steel bracelet, but I'm sure we could get a bracelet for this, no problem. 1, 2, 3. 22 millimeters. Yes, 20 minutes. Yeah, this is a good option. That's a good suggestion for sure. I'm not mad at it. And you know what? I like the fact that you suggested a watch that's quartz instead. Debatable on the price, being that we just saw some options there that are equivalent to mechanical, but that's preference at the end of the day. Even though mechanical has that magical feeling to it, that feeling of connection to something that's tinkering and moving around and alive and stuff like that. But your upside is that it's going to be incredibly accurate, right? It's a Miyota, and you don't have to worry about the date adjustment on there. So it's definitely a good suggestion that we got up there, for sure. Mega. If the Citizen Pro Master Tough Super Titanium would have the SKX. Interesting. I definitely think that that's true. Titanium is a great material to get, 100%. And then it's 300 meters. Yeah, absolutely. SKX would be probably moving towards the backer part of our minds at that point, But I think that, like you guys said, there's a lot of different options that we can explore. Like I gave you guys a couple of them, but there's probably an endless amount. Especially, like I said, like there's a lot of language designs that allude to that SKX model. So there's plenty of different options that we can explore with that. As you guys saw, there was some quartz. There's some affordable mechanicals, different companies that we can go with, reliability and everything else. So I definitely think that that's definitely a valid thing to say at the end of the day, for sure. What do we got here? The one that I purchased is the automatic movement with bracelet. I don't know if they still make those. Oh, okay. So, what did you pay on it? Let us know what you paid on it. Okay. So, you actually got an automatic movement with bracelet. So, that was my only qualms with it, right? Like, I would prefer it to be a mechanical, especially if I'm getting inspired from the SKX. Again, nothing wrong with quartz. In fact, it's a little bit less of a headache. Even more affordable if you want to do the service yourself. Like I talked about switching out the movement when it comes time to service. Like you can also purchase a quartz movement and service it. And chances are a quartz movement is going to be far more affordable depending, to do that out. But you got your hands on an automatic. Let us know how much you paid on it. But that was another option as well. I don't know if they still have that option as a mechanical, but if they do, there's plenty of different options that you guys can look out for that. A lot of good micros out there as well. Yo, Omega, I'm not calling, I came across some posts and some feed, and one of the companies, I'm not going to mention who they are. Excuse me, guys. I'm not going to mention who they are. And I know that we're just talking in terms of the labels that we're used to, right? But I don't want to call micro brands anymore, man. I want to call them independent brands. I want to call them small business brands. I want to call them something else because I feel like the word micro, and I'm getting caught up on words, right? But I feel like for what micro brands, independent brands offer, as far as their passion, as far as their enthusiasm, as far as their will to connect to the enthusiast and do these shows, and you get to meet the owner in person, you get to have a conversation with them, you get to find out what drove them to release a new line. Like that's a fantastic thing, and a lot of them are sourcing movements that are of luxury quality, and they're putting a lot of time and attention into details for the watches itself. And when you couple that with the passion that they have, that they're giving to us, and the availability that they're making to themselves, and then their customer service on the back end, man, like I've heard a lot of great stories of people having the smallest issues with their watches, man, missing like a screw on a link or just something silly, and they just ship it out to you for free, and they say, hey, I'm so sorry this happened to you, here you go. Like I'm only getting caught up in the wordplay because I'm really passionate about giving them a little bit more attention and giving them a little bit more respect in the fact of what they're giving back to us, including micro brands giving us the options to supplement that SKX or supplement any watch. You could supplement any luxury watch that may be unattainable for you financially. These independent brands are bringing that to the surface, and they're doing it in a much affordable rate, and they're really giving us time and attention into the watch, and it's definitely worth us looking towards or aspiring to, right? You for $1,000, which is still a lot of money, but we all know that once we start getting into collecting and as we progress, $1,000 becomes a lot more affordable than it was in the beginning of the conversation. But what these independent brands are giving us for $1,000, I mean, night and day. You're not paying for just the name. You're not paying for their advertisement. They're doing a lot of the heavy lifting when it comes to their advertisement, when it comes to them showing up in person. You're really getting closer to the number that it should be. I think personally, I think that any luxury watch should be around that range. I think it should be no more than even $3,000 for a big brand name. And I'm trying not to mention any names here because I want to pay more attention to what I'm saying here, right? I think that it should be attainable for everybody, at the end of the day. So these independent brands, these small businesses are a great option no matter which way you want to go, whether it be luxury, whether it be just a different rendition of a watch that you already like. So Dave, you paid $300 to $350 for that. That's valid. That's valid. For what you're getting, I'm pretty sure the specs to that watch that is an SKX kind of like homage, for mechanical. I'm pretty sure it has 200 meters. I'm pretty sure it at that point you probably got hacking, hand winding, and all that stuff. So that's if they re-released the SKX and they did the proper upgrades to it, it's going to be maybe a little bit more because they may be capitalizing on that feel that everybody had for the SKX, the love. So if Seiko today, let's paint a perfect world here, a perfect world. Seiko listens to us enthusiasts. Excuse me. Seiko listens to us enthusiasts, right? And they go from the '09 and the '07 to the upgrade of, let's go crazy and say they give us even the sapphire crystal hand hacking, hand winding, and all that. Today's market, that watch with the hype, knowing that people are really going to want it, and they probably would do a limited release or slap prospects on it, prospects, because now you're getting hacking and hand winding. You know how they do, baby. That watch is going to be around $450, $500 in today's market. I think that Seiko would re-release that watch, probably a limited run, probably a limited run of 5,000 pieces. You know how they do. And they would probably put that watch at $500-$600, maybe a little bit more. And then it becomes a conversation of, is it worth it? I don't know. Because if you look at the Alpinist, that's exactly what they did, right? I wanted the Alpinist so bad when I first saw it. And I ended up building my own version of it in some respect to it. That's another conversation. But, Seiko often does this. They do prospects and they'll add a little bit into there and maybe not completely what we want from it. And they charge a premium for it. And that's just how they do. They're Seiko, like people, they're a trusted brand and they have a following. So they're going to get away with that all day long. So in my opinion, I think if they did that re-release and it was a limited run, we're probably looking $500. If it's not a limited run, they probably would have done like the same price, $325, $350, all day long. But they would have never done, let's be real, they would have never done a sapphire crystal. They would have stayed with their Hardlex, which fine, mine held up. So my Hardlex is holding up on my watch, so that's fine. All right, what do we got here? Mega Perrin watches does a great work with their pieces under 1K. Yeah, man. Listen, Mega, I'm going to be doing a lot of research. I think that my next inspiration is going deeply and as much information. There are a lot of independent brands, okay? So if I'm just putting you on to independent brands as far as their value and their passion, that's a whole nother thing. It's a can of worms. There's a lot to unpack with that. There's a whole lot of guys out there. I don't know if all of them are going to be as good as I'm making it out to be. I'm only talking about the ones that are up there, right? Jack Mason, Christopher Ward, Laurier. The list goes on. There's a whole bunch of them out there. And I'm sure not all of them are going to be equal in quality and everything else. But there is so many companies out there doing it and doing it well that it's worth my time and my energy to make sure that I get something of quality, make sure that I listen, when you're going after an independent brand, try not to say micro. If you're going after an independent brand, for me, I want to know your story. I want to know what inspired you to get into watches. I want to know what inspired your design. What are you doing with your specifications? Some of them opt out of certain specifications that would have been better for them as a company to sell more watches, but they don't do it because it's not in line with their mission. I respect that. I like that. Okay. It makes sense for me. And for me, I want to know what your story is. I want to know what inspires you. The William Wood watch. I met William Wood. I met the owner of William Wood, man. Gentleman. He had a great story about making these watches from fire hoses for the straps and coming up with the design and everything else. And that was his story behind it. I mean, you have some independent brands that came out during COVID. Think about how scary that was for them, like the way things are. And now we know that watches did very well during COVID because we had a lot of money that we were sitting on. They weren't going on vacation, so we were buying toys. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you as a person who's a no-name brand is going to get the bulk or the lion's share or even a fraction of that spending from people. But you're putting yourself out there, you're traveling, you're connecting with watch enthusiasts, you're telling your story over and over again. I mean, these guys sit at these shows and they tell their story over and over again passionately every single time until they lose their voice. I mean, if anybody earns the right for your expendable income on a toy, then it's definitely them. You know what I mean? So it's something that I think that I'm very passionate about. I'll rope myself into talking about independent brands over and over again. That's just I'm so motivated. It's almost like I found the right answer for myself as far as the next step in my journey. Right now, my collection's on ice and I'm enjoying every single piece that's in there, and I'm deciding which ones I need to move on from. And I'm absolutely taking my time, going back to Ben regretting moving on from his SKX. Sorry to use you as an example, brother, but it's something that I have heard and seen people go through. And I got to the point which a lot of us hope to get to at certain periods, and I've gotten to the point where I just enjoy a lot of my watches right now. And every watch has like 2 to 3 straps in it, and I'm really just wristing them and really seeing how I connect to them and see exactly where they're going to fit in to my journey. As far as, okay, now I'm excited about independent brands, right? So I know now collecting watches for 4 to 5 years, don't go crazy. Like I may fall in love with a independent brand story. Does that mean I have to inquire 5 or 6 more independent brand watches? No, absolutely not. Like not where I am, and not even in the beginning. Like you can't, you shouldn't put too many watches in your collection to start off with, and you should take some time to appreciate what you have, even if you're further along in your journey, and take your time, man. You could collect watches for the rest of your life, so there's absolutely no reason for you to go crazy with that. So even though I'm super excited, I'm on here talking about independent brands, even though this was labeled as the SKX and they're a Seiko big brand, tangents. I'm going to take my time and I'm going to look at the history or look at their inspiration that came to be and connect with them and add to my collection very slowly, and kind of be happy that I know that I'm getting a great value in the likes of, having their inspiration and stuff like that. Anything around. Hold on, guys. I'm reading chat. Give me a second here. Kevin, what's up, baby? Kevin's in the building. Spectator, yeah? Kevin, are you spectator? I'm trying, man. I'm trying to remember the names that transfer over. But anything I recommend is something I already own. However, I understand what you mean too. Yeah. I try to play it close to the chest when it comes to recommending things. I haven't owned an Islander. I haven't owned the Tandereel. And an SKX is definitely something that I would have recommended. Can't get it. But I'm confident enough to explain to somebody for what the watches that I offer to them, for what they are, and give them as a recommendation. Let's put it that way. Okay. Like I haven't owned those watches, but I could read the writing on the wall. I've been collecting. I've gotten homage watches. I've customized watches. I've gotten watches from Tandereel that I've used as parts and stuff like that, because it's absurd that they're selling a watch for $60 when an when a Seiko movement NH35 separately can cost you $20, $30. Obviously, they're buying in bulk and they have a deal and everything else, but still, they're they're okay with leaving a lot of money on the table, or they have an insane. But at the end of the day, I got those watches. I converted them to be my own custom mod. I've changed the dials on them. They were gifts that I've given to family, and I've messed around with them, man. I've felt the winding in them and everything else. So the Tandereel watch is just another Seiko custom build, if you will. They're just labeling it and they're just marketing it the way that they are, and they're they have the race to the bottom technique. They're willing to give you the serious discount on it. So it is what it is with that. But yeah, I definitely like to recommend watches that I have experience with. I have experience with the Orient as a company. Oh yeah, he did say he's spectator. What's up, Kev? My boy. My boy Kev always has my back. Iron Man, yeah. My wife says, "Is that Iron Man?" Yeah, that's Iron Man. So yeah, guys, I think that's pretty much all I have for today. We're keeping this one kind of brief. I wanted to stay around an hour in time. I want to be respectful of everybody's time and everything else. But before you guys leave, before we wrap things up, I just wanted to say thank you so much for supporting me. When I started this YouTube channel, when I started putting content out there, I never would have imagined getting 10 people to listen to me talk. Or I'm just an average Joe collector that's really inspired, and I have a lot of passion, and I didn't know what to do with it. So I figured, let me pour some of it into making content. And I just wanted to take a piece of this segment to thank everybody who supports me in coming on this live, spending your Friday with me, spending your Saturday with me, just to go on a rant. All you guys who are watching this after the fact, I mean, these things are an hour, hour and a half on my other videos, and you guys are watching it, which blows my mind. But I'm greatly appreciated, man. And just to have complete transparency about where I want to take this channel, sky's the limit. It's not my full-time job. It never will be. I just do this part-time as a hobby. I do this for fun. I try to do it with the best of quality that I could give. You do give it that time and attention, because at the end of the day, I want to give you guys some content that you can enjoy. I always enjoy throwing this kind of content in the background while I'm doing other stuff and just vibing out with the regular average Joe collector. It's just something that I really enjoyed. So I just wanted to say thank you so much for following me with this journey. I hope to continue to grow at a rate where I'm still enjoying this content and I'm able to keep up with it on a weekly basis. I probably never will stop. I was willing to do this journey if there were nobody watching my videos. That's how passionate I am about collecting and kept passionate about talking watches. I swear to God, I would be on here talking if there were zero views and nobody watching and no growth at all. And listen, my intentions, I'm not looking to have 100K subscribers. In my videos, my beginning videos, I was doing a lot of research on YouTube and seeing, how do you grow, blah, blah, blah. And, everybody says like, comment, subscribe. And, you'll still see that with the couple of weeks of releases of videos, because I've done pre-recordings that are set to be released. But I'm not even going to say like, comment, and subscribe in my videos anymore, man. It's really like, if you like what I'm saying and you like what I'm about, you like listening to my rants or coming on my live at certain segments, if you like vibing out, then more power to us, like more power to my channel. But I'm not in this to get the majority vote. I'm not doing this to get a side hustle or anything like that. If I end up growing to 10,000, 20,000 subscribers, 100,000, it's purely because I'm doing exactly what I'm doing now. I'm not trying to convert it to anything else. This is just me wanting to connect to you guys, give you the raw truth of what I believe. And in the future, hopefully I'll be able to connect with some independent brands and I'll be able to talk about their watches, do reviews, or get them on a live and just, get a one-on-one with them and really unpack their passion and their reason for going with watches and everything else. Because, currently, like I said, that's where I'm at. So that's where the content is going to follow. I'm not following content that, oh, let me do a review on this watch because it's the latest and greatest thing. For me, it's like, I'm just here to talk the truth. I'm just here to tell you guys where I'm at. And if you're on the same page as me, or you like, how I review things or how I talk about things, then I'm greatly appreciative. So thank you guys so much for joining me on this segment. I even rant on the end. That was supposed to be a closing segment, and that turned into a 5-minute rant. But I love you guys for tuning in. again, thank you for even the people that are tuning in after the fact. I hope you guys have a lovely weekend. And hopefully I'm able to go on live next week. If not, I'm going to have videos that are going to come out consistently every week. And I'll see you then. Until then, peace. Peace.